Hey, what's up? This is Harry Wagner from Harry's Situations, and today I want to talk to you about jerry cans, specifically why I don't like jerry cans. So we're going to talk about alternatives that you can purchase in order to extend the range of your vehicle, but in reality, there is a use for jerry cans. We're going to talk about different styles of cans, the pros and cons of each of those. What we are not going to talk about is legal ramifications, safety features. You can research those on your own. But if you want to know practical ways that you can increase the range of your vehicle when you're out overlanding, keep watching. So oftentimes we'll see people mount jerry cans on their swing out on the back of their vehicle with their spare tire. I made a whole video on the Driving Line channel about how I don't like swing outs. This video is also on the Driving Line channel, which is brought to you by NATO tires. If you like what we're doing here, please subscribe to the Driving Line channel so you don't miss any of this content in the future. On several of my vehicles, including this Jeep behind me, I've added larger fuel tanks that allow you to go longer without having to refuel. So in the case of this Jeep, it has a 31-gallon tank from Genright. The stock tank is only 19 gallons, so over 50% more range. Funny story, if you will indulge me, the tank was added by the previous owner, my friend Jeremy. When he saw the stock tank, he made a trip to Moab. He went to Elephant Hill, which maybe some of you have been to. When he got there, fuel was $1 more a gallon than it was in Moab, so he said, I don't need more fuel. Went and ran the trail, ran out of fuel, and had to pay a premium to get 5 gallons out of a jerry can from someone else. When he got home, his wife said, yeah, buy the Genright tank so we don't have to deal with this anymore. Just a little tip for you married guys out there when you want to make a purchase in the future. Other vehicles I have that have larger tanks include my Ford, which came with a 19-gallon fuel tank. I have an LMC 38-gallon fuel tank that doubles the range. Nate's Precision built a bomb-proof skid plate for it. It's pretty far off the ground, it rarely gets hit, but it's nice to have that protection when you need it. And with a truck that only gets 8 miles to the gallon, having a 38-gallon tank definitely comes in handy. Otherwise, there's places in Nevada I could go without even leaving the pavement. It's over 100 miles between fuel stops. So I understand range anxiety is a real thing. My Ram that I have has a 52-gallon tank from Titan Tanks in it. They make not only these larger fuel tanks, but Titan Tanks and Transfer Flow both make transfer tanks as well. So if you have a pickup that they don't have an application for a larger tank, you can get a tank that goes in your bed and that will actually transfer fuel from it into your tank. There's different ways to do that. Sometimes they just have a pump that pumps it into your tank. Sometimes it's gravity fed. Long Range is another company that makes these tanks for a lot of SUVs, Toyotas in particular. In that case, you usually have to relocate the spare tire because it goes in between the frame rails in the back where the stock spare sits, but you can increase your fuel capacity by quite a bit. A great option, check out to see if they have an application for your vehicle. Now there are some downsides. In the case of this Jeep, it's not lifted very much. This bigger tank physically has to go somewhere and it hangs down further. I beat the crap out of the skid plate on this thing when I'm rock crawling. It does hang down quite a bit, but it's taken a beating and it's never given me any issues. Definitely worth it for the peace of mind when I'm going through a trail like the Rubicon and I don't have to worry about fuel. There are some other quirks that I found with these larger fuel tanks. In particular, the sending unit is for the stock tank. So how a sending unit works, right, is it measures ohms. It's got a little float. It goes up and down with the fuel level. Well, if you have a bigger tank, that float needs to sweep through the entire range. You could do some math, you could modify the float. I haven't done that on any of my vehicles. So with the Jeep, I just used the trip odometer and I have a pretty good idea of what my range is with the given fuel economy. In the case of my Ford, it uses about half the fuel before the gauge even starts moving. Once it starts moving, I start looking for a station. So some quirks, again, nothing that I can't live with, but I don't want you to think that there aren't any problems with adding a larger tank. Well, you might be saying, that's great, Harry. We get it. You're rich. You can spend $1,000 on a fuel tank. Well, I already spent $1,000 on my rooftop tent. I don't have any money left for a bigger fuel tank. And in that case, maybe you're carrying jerry cans. You know, I know it's really popular to have a bed rack in your truck and to strap jerry cans on the outside and strap your Max Tracks on the outside. And I'll be honest, I don't quite understand that look. Those are things that I rarely need. In the case of my Tundra, I carry Max Tracks, I carry a Rotopax. They are in the bed, they're strapped up against the front of the bed just with a simple ratchet strap. They're out of the sun, so they don't get UV damage, they don't swell and contract. And I think that's a better solution if you need to carry something like that personally. So maybe you want even more range than a larger fuel tank offers and you want to stick with jerry cans. So there are a lot of different options out there, and things you want to consider are price, packaging, mounting is certainly a big one, and just how well they work without spilling. So this is sort of our traditional jerry can. I use that term as a generic term. You can see here it's got a lip around the bottom. It's got this threaded on top here. In my experience, these pretty much always spill when you use them. They spill when they're on your vehicle, which I don't love. If you use them hard off-road, I've had them crack right here around where they're welded together at the bottom. The upsides are they're pretty inexpensive. There's a lot of different mounting options out there for carrying these with you on the trail, so that part's good. This is sort of the old standby, or the thing that we're gonna measure all the rest of these against. One time on the Rubicon, my friend Dylan rode his trials bike through the trail. Now a trials bike, very minimalist. The fuel tank is actually in the frame, but they're tiny. So he gave me a water bottle full of fuel that he asked me to carry for him. Can't say I recommend that as a way to carry your fuel on the trail. Now this is a style of can that you would see for like a motorcycle. I like these because they have a pretty wide base, so they don't tend to fall over. They are plastic, which means they don't rattle a lot, which is nice, but they also swell, which isn't nice. This style I've found works pretty good if you're going like into a motorcycle tank, which is generally straight up and down. If you're going into a vehicle, sometimes they can have some leakage, but this isn't a bad choice and they're very reasonably priced. Now the Rotopax is probably the most popular option with the overland crowd. As you can see, this one's ballooned out. That happens when they're in the sun. The fuel inside expands, it doesn't have anywhere to go, and so this thing balloons out. The thing that I really like about these is they make them in various sizes. The mounting points, they offer a bunch of different things that you can use to mount them on just about any flat surface, which is nice. And then the nozzle for this nests inside of it, and it just is sort of spring loaded, so when you push it into the fuel filler, it starts fueling. I found that they work pretty well in my experience. So this is a good option. A little more expensive than the traditional cans, but the packaging and the mounting options I really think make it worthwhile. We also have my favorite style of can called a NATO can. In this case, they're actually 20 liters. They're not 5 gallons, but pretty darn close. If we look at these here, there's a few differences, right? This one has a metal latch. This one has a plastic lid. I prefer the all metal design. Over our traditional jerry can, you'll notice this doesn't have a seam on the bottom. So it's actually two sides welded together, which is really nice. I feel like it's a stronger design that's not as prone to leaking. There are quite a few mounting options for this style can too. Again, I would go with the one with the metal lid if you go to get them, but this brand is Wavian. There's a few different brands with this same style. One thing you want to look for, I've bought some that are less expensive. They're not fully welded here where the handle comes in. You put 5 gallons of fuel in here, and I've had where I pick them up and it peels the whole handle off, which is not great. There's also some that even inside the nozzle, they'll have a little tube here where you can't really put a fuel filler in it. And I think the tube is to let air in as the fuel comes out, but I found it makes them really hard to fill. So I'm not a fan of that style myself. Another thing to keep in mind is the filler, how these fill. As I mentioned, in the case of our Rotopax, it's actually nestled in there, similar to this design here where it just flips over. It's actually spring loaded. When this pushes back, it allows the fuel to come in. That style is the same. With these metal cans, there's a few different options. There's the spring-loaded ones. And then there's also just sort of this traditional style. I found these actually work quite well. They're flexible. You can kind of get the can up and in and then tilt it once it's in. They don't spill a whole lot. The place I find they do spill when they do is because the gasket here gets rotted out and then you don't have a good seal. So they sell replacement gaskets. That's something you want to keep up on, especially if you use fuel that has ethanol in it. It tends to eat these pretty quick. So this hook keeps our lid closed, which uses these hooks here into there, and the filler actually uses the same thing to hook in there and kind of lever into place. And then you can store the filler here when it's not in use. So this can actually has the filler nestled inside. If we take this part out here, we pull this out and flip it over, it goes in there and then just threads on the top here. And then when you put it in the tank, this pushes back, it's spring loaded, and that's what allows the fuel to come out. So with this style can, you actually don't even take the lid off. You just put this in the fuel filler, and when it presses against it, it pulls back and the fuel can come out here. These are great on a motorcycle tank. Now I didn't bring the filler for this old can, but you can see inside it's got really big threads, and they've got a metal canister that attaches here that threads on and allows you to fill it. The Rotopax also uses this nestled style. So we take this out, flip this over, thread this on here, and then you can fuel once this is pushed back when it's in the truck. Now over time, fuel does go bad, and the last thing you want when you run out of gas is to put bad fuel in your vehicle. So you have a few different options. One is you can cycle the fuel from your cans into your vehicle and refuel the cans on a monthly basis, or you can put fuel stabilizer in the cans to ensure that it'll be useful when you need it. One advantage to having a larger fuel tank is that you can fuel in places that are less expensive. So in the case of like Lake Tahoe and Carson City, it's often a $1 difference in price between the two. So I really want to maximize my dollar. When I'm in Carson City, I want to fuel up that big tank. I use the Gas Buddy app to find the cheapest fuel when I'm in an area I'm not familiar with, and that saved me a lot of money too. Jerry can, more like Jerry can't, am I right? Comment below and let me know if I've convinced you to ditch your cans for a larger fuel tank, or if you're still gonna carry them with you when you're out overlanding. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching this Hairy Situations video on the Driving Line channel. Driving Line has all sorts of great content creators, and they're dropping new content almost daily. You're definitely gonna wanna subscribe so you don't miss any of it in the future. And we'll see you out on the trail.